Sixth one is about something we call nth roots. What is an nth root? I'm not actually going to give you the definition of an nth root. We'll use an easier example, like what is a fourth root? Actually, let's just do what is a cubed root or cubic root? That's easier. What is a cubic root? Yeah, we'll just do an example. The cubic root of 64 is 4. Because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. You don't actually need to know what the definition of an nth root is. It's what number times itself n times gives you the result inside. But that's more confusing. Now, there is two things that you need to memorize about this. It has to deal with the evens and the odds. An even example would be like the fourth root of -1. Is that real? It's imaginary, because -1 times -1 times -1 times -1 cannot be. Yeah, -1 times -1 times -1 times -1 is +1. So the fourth root of -1 must be imaginary. It cannot exist. There is no real number that you can multiply by itself 4 times to get a negative. So the deal here is your even roots. You got to be a little careful. There's also one more thing I need to talk about. The square root of 4. Something real. How many answers does it have? 2. Is plus or minus 2. So the deal with even roots is you got to think about imaginaries. And you have 2 solutions. You're always going to have 2 solutions. Always. Yeah, not really. Imaginary. Then you have odd nth roots. You know, a lot of kids think that you can't take the cubed root of -8. Oh, it's a negative, it's imaginary. That's, yeah, on squares. What is the cubed root of -8? What kind of 2? Equals -2. Because a -2 times a -2 times a -2 is -8. Odd nth roots only have one answer. They only have one answer. There's no plus or minus to it. There's just a one solid answer. It just happens to be repeated. Now, I realize that some of y'all's 4th and 5th grade math tables were never memorized, nor were your cubes and your squares. I do realize that you're going to struggle with some of this. Now, here's find the indicated real nth root of a number. The number is -216 and the root is 3. So they're telling this is nth roots. It's a cubic root of a -216. I don't expect you to really know that. I don't. So I'm going to show you how to do it in a calculator. The cubic root of some x can be written as x to the 1/3 power. It's conversion to exponential notation. Okay? Now your TI-84s do have the cubic root under math somewhere, but you have to understand exponents. So if I want to take the cubic root of a -216, I can go to my TI-84 and I can raise it to the 1/3 power. Now, depending on the age of your TI-84, the operating system that's involved, you might need to wrap it in a set of parentheses. You might. See this one right here? Actually, it goes up to the exponential space. It does not need parentheses. If it didn't go up in the exponential space like that, it was just the rooftop on the same level, you would. It's -6. So that guy is -6. What root are we being asked to take of 81 on example B? Fourth root. You know, as a radical, this has got a little 4 out front, up top, kind of almost in the exponential space, not on the level with it, of 81. That might be something you actually know. Anybody know it? No? Okay, well, all right, let's convert it into an exponent. This is 81 to what power? 1/4. And you should be trying to type this stuff in your calculator, kids, or you'll never remember it. Never will. That's why you guys make 50s, if you're lucky. I was talking to Miss Cantrell. I was like, you know, with this class, it used to be a fairly common grade on tests was something in the 50 to 70 range. That was the common area in math. Y'all are in the 11 to 20 range. Those are your common grades. Yeah. I don't care. You will never be an engineering student if you don't understand exponents. I don't care. You will never be an engineering student if you don't understand exponents. Ever. Ever. Take the dream, throw it away. I know it's there, Sean. I said it was there. I don't care. It's 3. I am glad you were smart enough to play around with your calculator and figure out where it was. I am. I'm just saying math doesn't care. What you got? Are we solving for x? Then nope. Only when you solve for x do you worry about the negativity. So here's how you do some stuff in a calculator. Hopefully you played along. All right, these two things are off your form quiz. How you rewrite radicals, that's basically what this is. This is rewriting as a radical. This is exponential notation. On your form quiz, I probably have this written out differently. I don't remember how I wrote it, but whatever. Sum A with an exponent of m to the n is taking the nth root of an a to the m. Or it's taking the nth root of a and it's raising it all to the mth power. Now, let's talk about that a to the m over n. The bottom is the root and the top is the power. No roots grow underground, kids. The root's under the divisor. That's a conversion rule for going from exponential notation to radical notation or vice versa. Now, if the exponent was negative, if it was negative m over n, we'd say that's 1 over a to the positive m over n, wouldn't you? What do you mean you don't know? It's a rule. If the exponent's negative, shift it. Last I checked, it was a rule. This would be 1 over the nth root of a to the m, or 1 over the nth root of a all to the m. So use that rule. I probably did. I probably put P and an R for root, P for power. That's what I did. I was trying to make that one easier on y'all, but it didn't matter. Nobody bothered to memorize it. Form quizzes. You guys don't bother to memorize your things. That's why you don't know this content. Yeah. That's why you made 102, Christina. That should be on the clipboard. If you'd like it up there, I'll put it up there for you. Anyways, let's do a little conversion. Convert 6 to the 2/3 from exponential notation into radical notation. Dylan, what would the root be? Sam, what would the root be? Cubic root of 6. What would the power on that 6 be? Anybody? 2. Now, if you don't like it written like that, you can also put the whole blasted radical in a second set of parentheses and put the 2 where? Honestly, this is the one you use 3 out of the 4 times. If you're doing things by hand, that's the one that matters. It's more important than the other one, but they both have their place. All right, we got all of 5x to the 5/6. Grant, what's the root? 6th root. This is mainly for the females, but you males are starting to write a little more feminine every year. The 6 is up high. 5x. Now, if I'm going to say 5x squared, I can't just put a 2 here. I can't put the 2 right there like that. That would only square the x. All of 5x. Which is another reason why the master set around the radical is usually a safer bet. Keeps you from making a mistake.
Yeah, what was square?
Oh, is it a 5?
Why is the 5 like inside instead of like outside? Oh, because it's already encrypted.
Can it be wrote like what you circled and square?
Yeah, how would you do it with printed all around?
Or 6th root of all of 5x, all to the 5th. 10 minutes, man. Example C. What's the only thing with the exponent? X. Put the 5 outside. Still what root of x? 6. What power on the x? 5. I'd leave that one like that myself. Be comfortable with both. There's front page. Other way around. Convert from radical to exponential notation. Right. So I'm going to write this down again. A to the m over n. That's exponential form. What's the n represent? The root. What's the m represent? Power. We got a bit of a glare going on, don't we? All right, and a is just the thing inside. So 4, 5/3. That's pretty simple, isn't it? Chandler, how about b? What would b be? Name's not Chandler. I'm glad you knew it, Devon. I am. Anybody got any questions for Chandler? It's really simple, isn't it?
Can you go back up a little bit? What it says is
That's where I rewrote the rule off the front page, Grant. It's one of the reasons I know these things so well. I've written them thousands and thousands of times. When you guys take a formula quiz, you probably sit there and think about what they are. I don't. I just write. Not a thought going through my head at all. I just write. All right, here's some evaluation. I realize you can use a calculator. I do. Your homework probably says something about that. Don't just plug the thing in. Think about it. 16 to the 3/2. Square root of 16 all cubed. What is square root of 16? 4. This is really a 4 that's cubed. 64. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just type that in your calculator and be good about your life. The problem is you won't understand the algebra with the exponents by just typing things in the calculator. The calculator can't do x to the 3/2. So the problem with using TI-84 to evaluate your numbers is that you forget about what's going on with the exponents. So try and write it out and try and reason through it, or you just will not get the section. Now how about 32 to the negative 3/5? Fifth root of 32. And we should have probably done this a little bit different, but still raise the negative third power. Right? We'll worry about that in a second. I ain't concerned about it now. The fifth root of 32 is probably not something y'all would know off the top of your head. No. Do 32 to what power in calculator? 1/5. Want to take a fifth root? You literally take a 1/5 power. It is 2. If you got to use a calculator for little things, then you got to use a calculator for little things. So this is really a 2 to the negative third power. Now let's worry about that exponent. It's negative. Makes it 1 over 2 cubed. And you ought to be able to do 2 cubed unless you think it's 6. Then you definitely take bridge math next year. It's 8. Yeah, it's 1 over 8. C and D I do because they're ones that kids are supposed to understand, and they don't. The 1/2 power. I'm going to rewrite it first off so the exponent's positive. But what is the 1/2 power? It's the square root. The square root has an understood 2. Okay? Always has, always will. It's understood, so we don't write it. What is the square root of 9? 1/3. Example D, I put on here to be done using a calculator. How would you rewrite that one as something in exponential form? To the what? 2/3. Wish I had an older TI-84 up here that didn't rooftop properly.
I can't figure out how to do it.
So yours is an older TI-84 that doesn't rooftop properly?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Ah, cool.
I've been confused. I don't get it.
What's the power, Grant? What's the power? What are we raising it all to? What's the root?
But I mean.
Root's in the bottom, power's in the top.
On all these other ones, we could do 1/5. So why would I do 1/3?
I'm trying to show you how to do the whole thing in a calculator.
Okay, so you're trying to show us
On this one, yes. Do you know what the cubic root of negative 30 is? It's not a real, it's a real number, but it's irrational. The other ones were things that a lot of students can't evaluate without technology. This one you can't do. I don't care how smart you are, you don't know the cubic root of negative 30. Anyways, I've got an older TI-84 up here, and Ty was saying he couldn't figure this out. Like, he tried to do 32 to the 1/5. His problem was he didn't wrap the exponent. Now, the way I have this written, negative 30, this is an older calculator, rooftop, parentheses 2 over 3. Got negative 9.56. I don't think it'll matter on this one, but when you're dealing with a negative, you should wrap it. If you've got an older calculator in front of you that doesn't raise things in the exponential space, you have to type things in correctly first off, and you should be wrapping the negative symbol. It did matter, didn't it? That's the right answer. The right answer is the positive one. Wrap negatives, kids, like I've been telling you in the quadratic formula. Wrap negatives. You should be getting 9.65 if you're playing along. $9.65. Ah, good. We're down to the solving section. Solve equations with nth roots. Don't worry about the power of that 5 right there. Pretend it's a 2 for this moment in time. Just play the isolation game. How do you isolate the x? You want to divide by a half? That's fine. I wish you wouldn't, but whatever. Figure out what 512 divided by a half is. What is it? 1,024. X to the fifth equals 1,024. Now, if we had x squared, what would we do? Take the square root. We don't. We have x to the fifth. What root do we take of both sides? We take the fifth root. We take the fifth root of x to the fifth, and we take the fifth root of 1,024. Now, what's the fifth root of x to the fifth? X. The square root of x squared was x. The fifth root of x to the fifth has got to be x. And you probably don't know the fifth root of 1,024 off the top of your head, so in a calculator you would raise it to what power? The 1/5. I hope it's 4. It's not. My memory's failing me. Plus or minus? Odd. Odd root. Only one answer. I'm going to do example C. Probably call it class. Subtract 40. X to 2/3 equals 16. Well, this is funky. What's the opposite of 2/3? 3/2. Good. Good. Raise both sides to the 3/2 power. And I understand for some of y'all that's a long shot. But you got to go back and think about your rules on multiplication. Hold on a second. You have a rule that says x to the a raised to the b is x to the ab. Don't you? What's 2 times 3? 3 times 2. See, this piece right here is really x to the 6th over 6. And what is 6 over 6? 1. So you just multiply, you raise both sides to the reciprocal of the exponent. Now, I feel like doing this one by hand. So I know that x is the square root of 16. That is what? Cubed? Cubed?
Yeah.
What root are you taking? Even or odd? Even. Even root. 2 answers. What is the square root of 16? Plus or minus, kids? It is either a positive or a negative 4 that is cubed. What's a 4 that's cubed? 64. What's a negative 4 that's cubed? So it's going to be plus or minus 64. You can introduce the plus or minus whenever you want. It's supposed to be introduced at the square root, but it doesn't have to be. Let's see. Nope. I was going to see if I could do the last one, but I can't. There's one like it in your homework. It's actually not that bad if you can factor. It factors, by the way. X to the 2/3 times x to the 2/3 is x to the 4/3. Anyways, that assignment counts as 2. It's up to you if you do it or not. If you didn't like your test grade, I'll give you a week to do that retake. Gotta do that during direct studies or in the morning before classes start. I wouldn't retake if I were you, Trey. Great. Son, it's about 6 weeks averages. Huh?
You said that the Khan Academy changes, it's still like 15% changes the grade.
15% will take a failing 6 weeks to a 75. Doesn't matter what you flunk the 6 weeks for.
Did I retake it?
Who said that? What'd you make, Sam?
75.
Yeah, it's borderline.
I just don't want to retake it and do worse.
If I were you, I'd retake it, but that's me.
You would?
Yep.
Right, you said you give us links, right?